Hi, I'm Sue Serio from Fox 29. April is National Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month, and we're going to talk about folks that get that job done from Justice Rescue. Wolf, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us today.
You're like Cher, right? You're a wolf.
Yeah.
All right, Justice Rescue, you've been around for how long?
Justice Rescue has been around since 2011. I've done a lot of animal rescue work before that, but as far as becoming the organization was 2011.
And how did you guys get started?
I went through a lot of changes in life as I started to get older, and some depressional issues, some personal things that were very saddening to me. And at one point I turned to animals as a point of being able to help them and fulfill that void and that need that I had, and at the same time protecting these helpless animals that needed somebody like me so badly.
So you started a rescue and you called it Justice Rescue, and I would think that'd be a little bit obvious, but tell me how you came across that name.
Justice for the animals.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. We have a 0% tolerance on any cruelty to any animal. When we first started, we were not a rescue. We were not on Facebook. We didn't have any of those things. We're, a couple guys. I started this rescue with the co-founder Crash, and we were just a couple guys going out helping animals.
Right.
So, it was a little while later when we first started, we both had certain things in our life that led us to animal shelters to try to help. And we met there, and it was great because we're a bunch of biker big kind of guys, and in the shelter environment, we kind of just bonded right away, right?
It's great.
Yeah, he rode up on his bike, I rode up on mine, and that's how we got started. But ultimately, one of our our first go time, so to speak, was we were at the front desk working with animals, and we saw an animal control officer bring a dog in that was just used in a fighting ring.
Oh my gosh.
And we overheard where the dog came from, we overheard the circumstances. Well, then we looked into it, and there's nothing to protect these animals, especially after the fact. We know of shelters being shelters for the animals and a good place for them to go.
Right.
But that's all recovery. That's if the animal is actually lucky enough to get out of that abusive environment and end up at a shelter. We don't necessarily want all the animals at the shelter, but trust me, from the abuse and environments they're coming from, that's a kingdom to them.
Right, and better off from where they were. Why don't you take me through a typical rescue of an animal? Let's say, how do you find out about an animal that needs your help, and then what happens after that?
We've been doing this for 6 years, and I don't think that there's been one the same out of any of them.
So nothing's typical.
Yeah. So we get all of our leads and all of our investigations, we get them from our website. People can report abuse on our website. We have police contacts that contact us. We ourselves are humane police officers.
Okay.
Within the state of Pennsylvania, we have arrest powers, and we can arrest people for animal cruelty. So we have partnerships with state, local, and federal law enforcement to where when they need our assistance, and it could be something they're investigating from drugs or domestic violence or any other crime,
Right.
when they have other animal cruelty issues that are related, then we assist in them. We either make the arrest or we assist them in making the arrest. One of the most difficult things, I think, to understand, for the general population to understand, is the animal cruelty statutes are written completely different than any other law enforcement statutes that there is. So you would think a police officer can just go and handle it.
Right.
Well, they have the authority within the state of Pennsylvania, within the townships, boroughs, and states to be able to do it, but they don't have training, they don't have resources. You and I think, well, just take that dog from that place. Well, realistically, it's evidence. When you're going to be making an arrest,
The dog is evidence.
the dog is evidence.
Okay, all right.
So you would think, well, just, even if it's taking it to the SPCA, get it out of there. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. If you're going to be removing an animal, and we're talking mostly about dogs, but it's any animal from a cruelty environment, you have to treat it as evidence. The crime scene investigation needs to be done specifically to animal abuse. The evidence collection, the logging, the security of that evidence, which in this case is, an animal living, breathing,
Now, does that mean you're not allowed to tamper with evidence? You know, because when we think, you know, we watch a lot of crime shows and tampering with evidence,
Yeah.
but when it's an animal, it's got to be a completely different story.
Yeah, well, you know, the crime scene investigation is the same as any other human crime, and even police officers that aren't trained, that really want to do a good job,
Right.
they don't treat it as such. So we can get fingerprints off of dog food bowls.
And that's where you come in.
Yeah, we can get
because you are
fingerprints
trained.
off of dog food bags.
Wow.
So, you know, you have to prove within the state of Pennsylvania, and, you know, we're national, but we're in Pennsylvania, so in Pennsylvania, you have to prove willingly and maliciously. So, you know, it's very difficult to prove
Right.
upon itself.
Right.
So we have to rely on all of the circumstantial evidence to be able to put it together and prosecute just like any other case.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of different aspects to abuse, and I know you cover all different categories. What kinds of abuse are we talking about here?
You know, you have multiple different facets of abuse, and I can tell you, I would say a large part of the time, people just don't know. So, you know, you have the educational factor, which we rely on 99% of the time. You educate, you provide any kind of local services through, you know, we supply a lot of elderly with vet care and food and grooming.
So in other
those
words,
kind of
they're
things.
neglecting their animals, but they don't realize it.
Yeah, they don't realize it, or they just love their animal and they don't have the resources to be able to provide for it.
Right.
So you can't, as a humane law enforcement officer, or rescuer, any part of an advocate or organization, you can't just assume that that animal's being abused because somebody's intentionally doing it. You know, there's been many times that we've went on cases, whether it be no shelter, you know, dog has wounds, animal has wounds that aren't going treated,
Right.
and things like that. And you can't just treat them like they're criminals because sometimes they just need help.
So this is where you have to have good, I guess, interviewing skills to really be able to talk to people and find out what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, when we think of animals, animals are living, breathing, you know, loving creatures, and they feel the same pain, they feel the same hunger, they feel the same cold, they feel the same heat. You know, they feel the same things that we do. The fact that we can still let them out on chains and, you know, legally have them in that environment, we're working hard and vigorously on trying to get better laws and getting people together as a community, because we are the people, and if we're going to change that, we have to all get together and make it a priority.
And I think that's where a program like this can help with the education, just illuminating what's going on out there. And we were talking earlier before we started this interview about people who notice what they think may be abuse in their neighborhood.
Yes.
And how difficult that is because people don't always want to report it.
Yes. There's a couple different assets to that as well, and one is you really do need to report it and not try to help it yourself. I mean, if you want to, you know, bring dog food to somebody that needs it or something like that.
Yeah.
We've had many cases where, you know, people tried to help, tried to make a difference, go knock on the door, yelling at the people, you're not treating your animal right, and then the people bring them in. Well, and that person feels that they did something good, which their intentions were good, but there wasn't too long ago where we had that same circumstance. We had a lot of investigations going at once. It was a cold day. You know, we were getting by priority. We have to go by a priority. And somebody did that. Well, by the time we got there, because it was reported to us, the guy had taken the dog, duct taped its legs, duct taped its mouth, and threw it down in the basement.
Oh my.
So the people on the outside think that they did good, but now
But you don't know what's happening inside the house.
Right?
Yeah.
And we appreciate and commend people that care and want to make a difference.
Right.
But we have to consider those kind of things. And you have the opposite. You have the people that are in a lot of the, you know, urban areas that we work in, very dangerous neighborhoods.
Right.
And even if you love an animal in some of those places, you're not going to report it to the police. You're not going to report it to the humane law enforcement officers because of retribution behind that, retaliation.
Well, right, because if somebody is abusing an animal, then you have a good reason to be afraid.
Yeah, yeah. And
So then you should call Justice Rescue.
yeah, you can call Justice Rescue and we'll help you try to find what organization in that area that can handle it professionally, legally, and responsibly. You know, we spend, I would say, 90% of our time patrolling areas that would never get a call. You would never get a call from these areas. These are the back streets in in the alleys that are chain fences that you can't see driving by. And that's another thing, like when I drive through, and I just driving here today for this interview, I'm looking around to see evidence of animals in the area, animals that are being abused, because the main streets, you're going to work and you have a million different things on your mind. You really don't know the animals that are suffering on the other side of that street.
Wow, you look at a neighborhood completely differently than the rest of us do.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing that has always been interesting to me, and not in a good way, is the connection between animal abuse and human abuse.
Yes.
You know, I know that there's proven link.
Yes.
And do you find that a lot in what you're doing, people who abuse animals, unfortunately?
When we first started, we had no clue. We had no clue the gateways that are associated with animal cruelty. Over time, we've seen children abuse. We've investigated one case where the kid actually had open sores and there was bugs in the sores. So we're able to help children, we're able to help elderly, but there's strong ties between sexual homicides, domestic violence, children, you know, there's drugs, guns, all of the normal heinous crimes in a neighborhood are most, you know, all of our animal abuse are mostly associated with those others. And that's what makes it dangerous for somebody to be able to combat that. We all know about the Columbine tragedy.
Right.
The individuals that were involved in that had a history of abusing animals.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realize that part of Columbine, that they started with that and then ended up going to the school and shooting.
Yeah, yeah, and the more focus that we're putting on the animal abuse, what could we have done to possibly use the education treatment of animals and changing the life of many, as we know that you know, after the tragedy, we'll never get an opportunity to come back. And it started with animal abuse. Another one that we can mention that is a profile is Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right, and we've all heard of him, but again, I don't think we realize that animal abuse was part of his profile.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that's why you want to get children while they're young to understand about animal abuse. So if you can prevent that, then you can prevent other crimes against humans. I would think
that's
in the
right.
future.
It's about the caring and the protection and the love of another being, whether it be animals or each other, to be able to impact change. And through our anti-bullying program, we've noticed through speaking to a lot of the professionals, the superintendents, the teachers, that somebody that is being bullied generally won't stick up for themselves. Somebody that's being bullied won't go to a teacher to say, I'm being bullied. So in our program, we're teaching everybody else how to come together as in a group. They're the ones that protect, they're the ones that tell, you know, the appropriate individual of what's happening right now. And that's the same thing with animal abuse. If we can get them on board with telling their moms, telling the police, telling their teachers about abuse happening, you know, then we're able to change their feeling about it, because otherwise they're stuck thinking that that's okay.
Right, and I guess what you're fighting a lot of times is generations of a way of thinking that that we've evolved past that, I guess.
That's right.
You know, where people grow up in families and they treat animals in a certain way, and that ain't cool anymore.
Yeah, people are not going to be okay with that anymore.
Right.
Including, you know, you have your image of a dog catcher, that, you know, somebody pull up in a truck, they throw the dog in the back of the truck and they pull off. Well, that's not accepted anymore.
Right.
And you know, we have so many people that have been educated, and primarily through social media, as you mentioned, to where, you know, they just need a path to get on. And supporting organizations that do that proactive work is how to start, at least. You know, you might not be able to change your life, but you can start supporting. As we mentioned earlier, we have anywhere from 15 to 20 sanctuary animals within our care at one time. We don't euthanize for space. Every individual dog that we bring in or animal gets every opportunity to be rehabilitated. And realistically, we have 10 that will never be adopted. However, they live a very happy life.
And you'll care for them for the rest of that animal's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as we can continue to do it, we will. And that's a huge part that we face is you would think an organization like mine is actually funded by the government or funded by the cities and municipalities. We're not. We don't get a dime from any of those. We are 100% reliant on the donations that come in from the generous people that they might not be able to provide that care or the specific knowledge and ability, but they want to support us to be able to do it. And it comes down to we can only save, and we can only do as much as we can financially afford to do.
Right. Right. So opportunities to donate for people who may not have the time to volunteer or who have the opportunity to do so but care about animals. All that information is on your Facebook page as well.
Yeah, Facebook or our website. I would like to mention that I am a volunteer. I don't get paid for this.
Wow.
I'm a dog trainer and I do other animal things, but I don't get paid for this. We only have a handful of regular staff and their kennel staff, the ones that take care of these animals every day.
Right.
Those are the only ones that are paid. You would think an organization like ours has many people, but it really doesn't. We put all of the money into the animal care. We had a dog not too long ago that was in a terrible fighting situation. Somebody dumped him on the side of the road. It's a huge decision. Do we put the money into him not knowing what his outcome is going to be? Because realistically, you have the medical care, he's dying, right? Terrible, terrible abuse situation. But do we really know, is he going to be adoptable? Are we going to be able to save him?
Right.
So you have to make, really strong.
And I guess it's a medical decision too.
It is.
Is it more kind to let the animal go or to rehabilitate?
Yeah.
And each case, I'm sure, is different.
Yeah, my personal feeling is as long as they keep fighting and as long as they keep moving forward and they're showing us that they want to continue, I'll do anything I have to for them.
Yeah, and all these years working with animals, I'm sure you can tell.
Yeah. And we had Remy. Remy is a worldwide advocate. He was a dog that was fought and thrown on the side of the road, and he fully recovered. He loves even other dogs. He loves people. He loves kids. When we have him at an event, people line up around the block to be able to meet Remy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really
so
is.
Making those decisions, people that are donating to us can know that their money is going directly to the animal care.
Thank you so much for all the great work you do for animals.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So for more information, we go to your Facebook page, and what would we search on Facebook?
Justice Rescue. Yeah, look for the guys with tattoos.
And then your phone number's there, and everything else is probably right there on the Facebook
That's
page.
right. We do a lot because we're national. We do a lot through emailing.
Yeah.
So different emails are provided depending on what avenue you want to go.
Where you're located.
Correct.
Right. All right. So get involved. April
Thank you.
is National Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month, and this is the guy that's getting it done. Thank you, Wolf.
Thank you.